Hello and welcome to Surrogacy Australia's webinar. My name is Anna Mackay and I gave birth as an altruistic surrogate nearly 4 years ago. A few bits of housekeeping first. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land upon which we are recording, listening and living on, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I run these webinars regularly on a Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Sydney time, and I alternate between having a focus for intended parents, we abbreviate that to IPs, and surrogates. I'm joined by a co-host each time who is either a surrogate or a parent through surrogacy, be that a gay dad or a straight mum. And fun fact, I've had each of the mums of each of these three co-hosts on as a co-host. And so you can find their episodes on the YouTube channel through Surrogacy Australia or subscribing to the podcast series that I convert them to. That was one thing I meant to have organised ahead of time, which episode numbers, but that's okay. You have a scroll through and you would find them. You are welcome to ask questions and you can enter them in the Q&A box, which you'll find at the edge of your screen somewhere. You can choose for those questions to be anonymous too, if you prefer. There's also a chat section. You might say, hi, we're IPs from Sydney, general comments, or you might just remain anonymous. I usually have a PowerPoint presentation that I take you through as a bit of the basics of how surrogacy works, but not tonight, because we've got a lot of questions to work through here with these children of surrogates. I anticipate we'll go around the group to hear each person's answer to a question. We might get sidetracked, but that's okay. I anticipate we'll get through most of the questions that I've listed prior to the webinar, and I will put that in the chat section now so that you know what questions are coming. Then I was going to say there's also a link that I'll put in there to that you can find dates for other future webinars there. Hang on, just technology. Where's my chat? There it is. So they are the list of questions and that we're roughly going to go through and the links. So I'm going to introduce my co-host tonight and I'll tell you a little bit about each of them and their mum's journey, but it's also their journey. So I have Clarity, Cooper and Eleanor. So Clarity, who is 15, her mum, Danny, birthed as a surrogate in Adelaide in February 2021 for a couple who were initially strangers. She had a little girl, Evie, for Sarah and Ben. Danny was initially a gestational surrogate for the couple, but they moved to traditional surrogacy, meaning Danny is also the egg donor. Danny is planning a second surrogacy with a new couple, also from Adelaide. So welcome, Clarity. Thank you for joining us.
Well,
I'm going to point out, because we had to swap screens with Clarity, if you want to change, oh, do you know what? I can rename it. Let me just do it. I can rename you. I'm just renaming it so it says Clarity, not Danny. So
yeah.
Then Cooper, who is 14, his mum Gemma from North Queensland birthed as a surrogate in Brisbane in March 2023 for a couple who were also strangers. Despite her waters breaking 10 weeks early and an emergency C-section, she had a little boy, Rupert, for two dads, James and Jim Bob. Gemma has been an egg donor since Cooper was 4, with 9 babies born across Australia. Welcome, Cooper. Thanks for joining us.
Hello.
And then Eleanor, who is 15, her mum Alison is a single mum living in Coffs Harbour who birthed her 3rd surrogate baby, September 2022, 2 years ago today, actually. And Charlie and his 2 dads also live locally, and the families knew each other socially before starting that journey. Her mum Alison has previously birthed 2 boys as a gestational surrogate for other families in Queensland, 2013 and 2014, as well as helping 5 families through egg donation. So welcome, Eleanor. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
All right, team. Well, we're going to launch into the questions. I might put them over there and just work our way around and just share your answers and then, add bits as you need to go. So I've explained who the IPs were for each of them. Now, I know Eleanor's mum has been it 3 times, but we're going to mainly talk about the most recent journey, but she'll add her bits in as necessary. Cooper, you're at the top corner of my screen, so you can go first. How did you get to know the IPs, those intended parents that your mum carried for?
I met James and Jim Bob really through just with them coming to visit, really, and us going to go see them. This was all, I'm pretty sure, where it all started was my mum actually met them at a surrogacy meetup conference, yeah, and it all just went off from there. and mum introduced us to them, and yeah.
And fun fact, you have then since spoken at that surrogacy conference a couple of years later, sharing your story. Is that right?
Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, Eleanor, do you remember the time of getting to know those IPs?
Yeah, we did know them beforehand just because one of the dads, Sammy, he hosts a cosplay convention in Coffs, and we've been to that a few times. So we knew him previously, but they're both really lovely, and it was very nice getting to know them. But I think it was just that Mum got contact with them through a Facebook group and figured it out from there.
Oh, cool. And Clarity, for you, do you remember spending that time getting to know Ben and Sarah?
Yeah, so we met Ben and Sarah at the Royal Adelaide show, and then it turned into like little catch-ups and meeting their families and just getting to know each other a lot more. So,
And in Adelaide, it's showtime at the moment. So how many years ago was that?
I think 7 or 8 maybe.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
yeah, because we went to the show last year with them, and it was like we did like a before surrogacy and after surrogacy photo with Evie. So it was really cute.
That's cool. So they've been a part of each of your lives for quite some time.
Yeah, so it's majority of our lives I think they've been a part of.
Yeah, since you've sort of had memories, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, Clarity, I'll stick with you then. What were your first thoughts when your mum brought up the idea of being a surrogate, and were you worried, and why worried, if at all?
I guess I wasn't really worried, and my mum had been an egg donor before surrogacy, so we sort of understood how it worked, but I wasn't worried at the time. So
Okay, that's good. What about the others? Eleanor, you, what do you remember your first thoughts? Mind you, her first journey, you were so little.
Yeah, the first surrogacy I was 3, so it's always just been Mum has babies for other people every once in a while.
Oh, that's perfect. That's my hook line for this. Mum has babies from. Well, it's kind of true. That's what you've all got in common, isn't it? Yeah. And then being a bit older with the last one, did you have any concerns? I guess now understanding bodies and how it all works a bit more.
Only because I knew that my mum was older and I knew that there were risks with that. So I was a bit like, oh, is this safe?
Yeah.
But she was happy to do it as like a last hurrah. So that's what you said.
One more. So those concerns that you might have had, about putting a body on the line type of thing, how did you get past those worries? Was it having chats with mum, or talking to midwives or anything like that? Or just
Well, Mum is a midwife, which helps. But she did good on making sure that I knew that there weren't really huge risks.
Yeah.
And also it's her body.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have stopped her.
Fair point. And I suppose as you guys each get older and have conversations then about your bodies, and how people could use their bodies in different ways, it's an interesting conversation to be having. And then what about you, Cooper? Do you remember when Mum brought it up for the first time, and any concerns?
No concerns really. Didn't come as much of a surprise, honestly. Especially because of the past 10 years. So yeah.
And elaborate on that. Is that because she's done egg donations?
It's because of all the egg donations, and so like before Mum had brought it up, I knew not much about it. But yeah, I just went along with it. Essentially just the same with Clarity, honestly.
Yeah. My kids, who are 8 and 10, mind you, at the time they were probably 2 and 4, and I'd done egg donation. We told them you need an egg and a seed to make a baby. And that's how I introduced the egg donation idea. And then it was, and you need a girl's tummy to grow it, because I carried for 2 dads. So yeah, I'm wondering if you had any of the 3 of you had any language like that to simplify it?
No, not really.
I've always been taught that gay couples exist and that's okay. And yeah, sometimes if they want babies, they need a lady to grow it.
Yep. And so that's what Mum was. Yeah. Cool. Cool. And so I'd imagine this recording is going to be useful for new surrogacy teams, when new mums come along and they're wondering how their kids are going to cope with it, the idea of surrogacy, I'm sure hearing from you guys helps them go, oh, they'll be fine with it. So let's keep moving through our questions. What about your siblings, if you've each got them? How did they feel about surrogacy, the same or different? Do you remember those conversations, Cooper?
It was really just a big family conversation, honestly. So, really
Blended family.
huge blended family. Lots and lots of conversations, but all my siblings and stuff, they had really the same reaction as I did, honestly.
Yep.
Just very similar.
I might add in the 2 questions at a time then. So siblings, similar. What about extended family, like grandparents or aunts and uncles, or was there any negativity at all?
Not really, no, honestly. Everyone was really supportive.
That's great.
Oh, as I said earlier, no one was really surprised.
Okay, it's like, oh, Mum, Gemma, she's doing something else, of course.
Yeah.
Eleanor, for you, your siblings, how did they react?
I don't think they really had a reaction. Brendan just isn't really fazed by any of that sort of stuff. And I have no idea about Daniel.
Sure, yep. And then what about extended families, like your dad or any grandparents, aunts and uncles?
So
Concerns?
my dad, I think, had a few questions, but like me, he knew he couldn't really stop her, so he just went along with it. We don't have much connection with Mum's extended family, but again, Dad's extended family, there's nothing they can do about it.
Yep. Well, I'm just thinking ahead to therefore what the pregnancy might have been like and any support that he might have had to give, but we'll get to pregnancy. What about you, Clarity? You got one brother a little bit older and one a little bit older again, an extended family. Any concerns or reactions?
Not really. Dustin and Jordan were both pretty excited about it, but Dustin sometimes would forget that we were doing surrogacy, and he forgot that Mum was pregnant a couple times. So he was like, "Wait, what? Mum's pregnant?" So that's Dustin for you. And then extended family, they were obviously a little bit worried about, any risks that could happen, but they were really supportive about it. So
that's good to hear.
yeah.
And Dustin, he's a year older than you or thereabouts.
No, he's a year younger than me.
He's the young, of course, wrong way around. Yeah. He's just so tall.
Yeah.
Yes, and I suppose that could happen the younger the kids get, the trying to remember what is actually happening.
Yeah.
Catching you each on the spot here then, how old were you then when Mum was pregnant for each of you? So Eleanor, if it's 2 years ago then, today.
Yeah, I was like 13.
Yep. Clarity, how old were you then?
I think I was 11 or 12 when Mum first got pregnant.
Yep. And Cooper then?
I was 12, yeah.
Yes. So I suppose for those listening, we've got that headspace of kids that age who are watching their mum be pregnant. My kids were 4 and 6 when I birthed, so they had some other stories perhaps they might tell. But when in terms of I was trying to think of which kids might come on and do this webinar, I wasn't quite sure what type of answers I would get if I had 6 or 8-year-olds on. So,
yeah.
So that's why I've picked teenagers. Maybe I should brave it and do another one with young ones on, but we'll see. All right, going through my questions there. What about explaining surrogacy to other kids? Is that something you ever had to do, explaining that your mum's pregnant? And right, Eleanor, you're nodding. You go first.
Yeah. Well, because Mum's been doing surrogacy since I was 3, and I've had pretty good connections with most of the kids in the families, I've had to explain who my cousins are.
Yes.
And yeah, just explaining that the first couple, the mother just kept having miscarriages and she couldn't handle it anymore, but she really wanted a baby. So Mum carried a child for her, and that the other 2 are 2 men who can't have a baby on their own.
Yes. So it's obvious in that way.
Mm.
You mentioned the term cousins just there. Is that the sort of language that you've been
That's
using?
just what I refer to them and some of the egg donor babies as, just because that's how I feel the relationship is. But I know that they use different terms for referring to me, so I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. What about you then, Clarity? Do you remember friends' reactions or having to explain it at school to teachers or anything?
So I definitely explained it to a lot of my friends because it's something that I'm really proud of. So, like, I explained to them how my mum was pregnant, and then it wasn't my sister; it was just somebody that my mum was carrying. So when I refer to Evie, which is the surrogacy baby, to my friends, I call her my little Evie thingy because that's when they're like, "Oh yeah, this is Evie," because I am very open about it and like I've talked to my friends about it a lot. So
Did any of your friends have reactions like, oh, like, isn't your mum going to want to keep the baby? Or how do you feel that she's given away your sibling? Even though we all know it's not, like, that's not how it feels. Yeah.
they were all like thought that it was so cool and super nice that my mum would do that for people. So
Oh, I'm glad it was positive reactions then.
yeah.
And in your mum's case then, Clarity, your mum was also the egg donor and the surrogate. So, but that was not initially how it panned out. Oh, that was not the initial plan, I mean. Did anybody ask particular questions going, you know, oh, whose egg is it? And therefore reactions?
Yeah, I don't think so. I told them, I was like, it's my mum's egg and it's Ben's sperm, but it's Sarah and Ben's kid. It's not a sister and it's not coming home with me. And they understood it quite well. So
Yeah. Did your friends ever ask you why they needed a surrogate in the first place, the couple Sarah and Ben?
no, I don't think my friends asked about that. So
They
yeah.
just assumed that they needed it for some medical reason type of thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Whereas in your case, Cooper, your mum carried for two dads. So I'm sure any friends that asked, that sort of then became obvious why you needed a surrogate. Reactions from your friends or
Wasn't really many reactions. The people I really did tell, they were like, "Oh, okay, cool," and they kind of just really just brushed it off because I don't think they really knew what it meant,
yeah.
but they just didn't. I just feel like they didn't want to know. So, you know, and I don't really go around. I know I'm very proud of it, but at the same time, it's not something I just go around parading on about, if you know what I mean.
Haven't got it printed on a t-shirt. Like
Yeah, no.
my mum was a surrogate, asked me about it. No.
Flags around saying, my mum's a surrogate. Oh,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not something I really talk about much, honestly. It's like a job interview. I'm not bringing it up.
For me,
Finally, Anna, just quickly, Cooper, so he does refer to the children as his cousins, or, you know, egg donor children, surrogate, you know, beautiful baby. And he, you know, for a bit of a shock factor. So Cooper went for his first job interview a couple of weeks ago. And one of the questions in the job interview was tell two truths and a lie. And Cooper said, okay, I've caught a shark off a boat. What was the second? I've done 2 years of breakdancing and I have 13 siblings. And they all thought, okay, like that's a lie. And he goes, no. And then, but proudly then went on to explain about, well, that's not a lie because, you know, like I call them my cousins, but, and so that was really cute.
yes, proud mum moment. Cooper, did you get the job?
Yes, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Woohoo, maybe it was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it in the end.
And I imagine for some of those people that you were explaining it to, perhaps haven't met anybody or know much about egg donation and surrogacy. So you were probably educating them along the way.
Yeah.
The expressions on their faces would have been interesting.
They were just not just shocked, surprised. Yeah.
And I imagine hearing a young person speak so eloquently and articulately about it would have been, they're like, oh, wow, he's not making this up. He really knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Cool.
Doing it for 2 years, just
Cool.
knowing
10
about
years.
it. Mum doing the stuff for 10 years, and then just including the 2 years of what I've learned about all that I've learned about surrogacy. It's really just, yeah, natural.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Okay, so then surrogacy can be a long journey. And then I'm thinking about what memories you've got, but maybe let's just focus on the pregnancy itself. Pregnancy can be hard for women, and each of your mums are obviously older than when they had you being pregnant, and so it gets harder the older that you get. Are there certain things that you remember of tired and grumpy mum, or was it a fine, smooth pregnancy? Cooper, do you want to kick me off?
Stress.
Tell me more. Tell me more. Stress for you or mum?
For mum and me as well, just the whole family, really. Well, most of the family. So first 30 or so weeks went pretty fine. Until I came home from school one day to find mum wasn't there. It was I then give her a call. Turns out she's been rushed to hospital because her water broke 10 weeks early. So that's fun, knowing that my mum is in Brisbane and I'm just at home. Stepdad had to come home from he was out on a work trip. And so he had to come home. Yeah. Stress. Very stressful.
Yeah. And so worried about your mum and making sure she's okay, and worried about the baby, when you're going to see each other again. Is that how then the next few weeks went? Yeah. So the baby was born a couple of weeks after that. They managed to sort of stabilize it for a bit.
Yeah.
What was the time then until you got to see your mum again?
Oh,
Few weeks?
just a
No,
couple of days. Yeah. After I'd learnt that,
village rallied.
village rallied, yeah.
The village rallied around,
Yeah.
and yeah, you were able to see her. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's, yeah, we might come back and touch on that. So that was quite a stressful factor there for yourself and your family and the dads and all of that too. Unexpected, isn't it? And that can happen in surrogacy. Yeah. Eleanor, for you, what was pregnancy like, watching your mum be pregnant?
Well, she's done it a few times,
Yes.
so that much I was used to. This one, me and my mum's bodies are strangely synchronized. I got, as far as I'm aware, most of her morning sickness while she was pregnant. I was sick for her.
Well, that's very kind of you to share the burden. Well,
But I don't really remember much. I remember poking Charlie a lot, playing with his toes.
yes, as in the kid when he was in her belly. And
Yeah, just grabbing his feet while I was kicking.
they look like aliens, don't they? Well, that's how I feel. Yep, alrighty. And Clarity, do you remember mum being pregnant?
Yeah, so it was a pretty smooth pregnancy. There was a couple of weeks where mum had some pretty bad headaches, and then mum has a hernia, so there was one day where she did have to go to the hospital, just because she was in a lot of pain, but everything ended up being okay. The baby was okay, my mum was okay, which was the important thing.
Yep.
But other than that, it was really smooth sailing with the pregnancy.
Okay. And she's planning to do it again in the future with a new couple, isn't she?
Yes.
So let's
Yeah.
see how the next one goes as well.
Yeah, hopefully it all goes well.
Yeah. And so then I feel like you're all skimming over that. I'm sure if we dug deep, there were some particularly hard things. We'll see how we go for time if we dig a little bit deeper on that one. But then I suppose we head towards the birth. And so I'd love to hear from each of you what was that like, particularly I know for Eleanor, who was there. But for the rest of you, hearing about it and then getting to meet baby for the first time, and what was it like the first few weeks and months after in terms of seeing the baby and the parents being parents? So Eleanor, do you want to kick us off and tell us, because you were at the birth, yeah?
I was at the birth. It was quite interesting. I had to leave the room for a little bit because mum was in so much pain. She had asked for me to leave.
Yeah, right.
And I came back in. She doesn't remember it, but she was pretty sweary. But it was really interesting seeing the baby come out because, like, I've heard what happens in words, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah.
And it was a water birth, so it was interesting. And I got to hold Charlie before one of his dads did, which is
Wow.
kind of special.
That's pretty special. Having seen the birth, are you glad you were there, or you kind of now wish you weren't?
I'm glad I was there, but I'm also kind of put off the idea of having kids because Mum said that was a really good one, and she seemed to be in so much pain.
Okay. Yeah, I wonder if that's influenced your own thoughts for the future.
A little bit.
Not in any rush at the moment.
Yeah, no.
So let's just do the birth then. So Cooper, you heard about the birth then, and you were there soon after?
I only got to meet him about a month after.
When
He
it happened, you
went-
just gotten home.
I'd just gotten home when it had happened.
That's right.
And yeah, I didn't get to meet him for about a month after that. He was in the NICU because of how early he had come out.
Yes.
So yeah,
And when
just
you met him, did they come up to you or you came down to them?
I came down to them.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. And so then Clarity, do you remember meeting Evie for the first time?
Yeah, so because it was during COVID, we weren't allowed to go into the hospital to see Mum and see the birth. But it was a couple of days later, like I think it was the weekend after, that we got to meet Evie. So Mum cried a lot. She was very emotional. So, and she was for the first couple of weeks whenever we saw Evie. But
Tell me
it
more
was a
about
pretty,
that. Mum was emotional. Was that when she got her babies to meet their baby? Do you think, is that why she was emotional?
yeah, I think so. Because we, especially when we like held Evie for the first time, she just was crying a lot. But I think it was just really bittersweet for her to see it.
Bittersweet. How do you mean by that?
Like, like seeing her kids hold this baby that, and seeing this family that she had known for such a long time finally get their family and like it all just working out in the end.
Yeah.
So,
Sounds a bit like a fairy tale.
yeah.
And so then staying with you, Clarity, in the weeks and months post-birth, so often in the surrogacy world, we talk about how there's this thing called head-heart hormones and how your head and your heart, we know where baby is, baby's safe or in intensive care unit in the case of Rupert with Cooper's family there, and that, we did what we wanted to do, but then our body as a birthing woman, the hormones have to adjust and sometimes the body's like, oh, where is the baby? And that can, lead to feelings of sometimes feeling a bit lost or confused or sad. You don't want the baby, but your body's probably going, where's the baby? Do any of you have memories of that adjustment for your mum? So Clarity, do you remember that few months post-birth being tricky or okay?
I mean, because we were still pretty young, it seemed to be okay, but I think for my mum, it was definitely probably a bit rough. But I think she knew that, like you said, that she knew the baby wasn't coming home with her and that it wasn't her kid. So
there were, I'm guessing, no times where your mums went, oh, I wish I could have the baby back?
No,
I don't think so.
No. So Eleanor, that was a definite head shake for you.
Yeah, she just looked at me and said, God, no. So, yeah.
Yeah. Do you remember those times post-birth? Was there particularly challenging times for mum?
Well, the first one I remember being pretty easy for Mum and I to let go of because the mother was Indian, so the child came out like darker skinned.
Yes.
So it was very easy to be like, yeah, okay, that's not ours.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't remember the second one, and by the time we had Charlie, we were used to it. Like we had already known from the get-go that we weren't keeping this kid. This isn't my sibling. Like this is going to another family.
Yeah. And I think that's probably a classic question, people wondering, oh, how are you as kids? Did you want to keep the baby at all? But it sounds like, of course, it's not like it's a surprise when birth comes along that baby's not coming home. It's, you've prepared for that. And then for you, Cooper, so your mum had her body to recover post-birth and a cesarean, which is it means probably limited driving and things like that. Do you remember those first few months post-birth? Were they challenging?
They were challenging, but mostly just full of pride, really. Just really happy that everything went well. Yeah. Really glad to see James and Jim Bob with their new baby boy.
Mm.
Really nice to see.
Yeah, you get to see your friends be parents, don't you? And how
Yeah.
they manage. So, well, just on that then, was that any comments about seeing your friends be parents? Were they the type of parents that you expected them to be, or they're a bit different, or
Better.
Better.
better?
More than friends, basically family, honestly, at this, yeah.
Yeah.
See them as uncles, honest. Little Rupert is our cousin. Yeah,
Grateful.
very grateful. Yeah.
I'm hearing the prompt there, Gemma.
Mum. Shush, Mum.
Okay, I've got a couple more questions, and then for people listening, feel free to type in any questions if I'm not covering them. What else have I got up here? So I said I've got here that surrogates usually feel a high after birthing a child for their friends. How did you feel? Cooper, it feels like you've almost just answered that one. Did you feel that high as well?
Yeah, just excitement. Lots of excitement. Yeah. But everything just went well. As I said, just happy to see them all happy together.
Cool. It's funny you say everything went well. It didn't.
Not everything, but like towards the end, it all worked out. Yeah.
And here we are, many months later, a year and a bit later. Oh, I've lost track now. How long that was? Yeah, over a year now. I guess that, what is it, like fades into the background now, some of those tough times.
Yeah.
You, Eleanor, then did you feel that high?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I was very excited to see the baby I'd been playing with for so long actually like come out of the womb and actually be able to look at his face. He was very cute, Charlie.
Yes.
I don't remember the other two very much because I was so little.
And then Clarity?
I was really happy. I loved Evie immediately. Like I always was like, oh, I want to see Evie, like, because I just loved Evie, and I was so excited to finally be able to meet this baby that people have been talking about for months, and it just felt really surreal, and it was so special.
That's cool. It's probably a nice lead on to then say you're excited to meet the baby. So do you still get to see the baby? And what connection do you feel that you have with the baby and its parents? So Clarity, do you still get to see Evie?
Yeah, I was actually on a picnic play date with her like last week, I think.
Yeah.
So I had to go down with the slide with her heaps of times. But so we still do get to see Ben and Sarah and Evie a lot.
What is a lot?
So we try and catch up as much as we can, but obviously things have been going on like outside of it. But I think every couple of months we see each other.
Yeah. I'm just trying to imagine her asking you to go down the slide with her. She's like, Clarity, again?
Pretty much. Yeah, she would like get to the bottom of the slide and then she'd like run around to like climb up the top again. And she's like, I go down with you now, Clarity. It's so cute.
Yes. I think it's always nice when they say your name too, isn't it? Then you know they're talking about you.
Yeah, and she always calls me her bestie as well. So yeah. She's like, you're my best friend, Clarity. It's so cute. I love her so much.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Eleanor, what about you? So 2 years on, how do you feel with surrogate bub Charlie?
So I babysit him whenever they need me to. He hasn't said my name yet, which makes me kind of sad. But he does share his food with me, which he doesn't do with anybody else. So he gave me some of his special crackers. But we try to see him when we can. It's just trying to balance that around mum's work and the dad's work. And
So again, when you can, would that be once every couple of months?
yeah, I think I hard at processing time.
Fair enough. What you've just said there about the babysitting, that could be quite unique to some people listening. Tell us about that. Have you done babysitting for other people, or is it something you'd planned as a team to do?
So I had been hoping to do babysitting for a while because I'm good with kids and I like spending time with kids. And yeah, one of the dads just offered it up because I didn't really know how to get into it, like how I'm supposed to start that conversation with people.
Yes,
So then I just sort of did.
that's awesome.
And they just had me over, and then they went out on a date while I looked after Charlie.
Right. I'd imagine there's a lot of trust that goes on there. Yeah, that's lovely that your team got to that place, that they trust your mum as a surrogate, but then also further, trusting her children. It's lovely. What about you, Cooper? How do you feel at this connection to Rupert, watching him grow up?
Oh, honestly, see him basically every school holidays, and sometimes just sometimes like once in a couple of months or so. They live in Brisbane, so it just makes it a little bit harder, but like just doing that trip. But yeah, just seeing him grow up, it's been really nice.
Is it often you guys going down to Brisbane to visit them?
It's really just a mixture. Most of the time we're going down to Brisbane, but because we do have family there. So yeah, it's like not just to see Bob, but at the same time, it's also nice to see them also taking that bit of initiative and and coming down to see us. Coming
Yeah,
up to see us.
coming up to see you. And then in the meantime, in-person visits, do you send photos or FaceTime, other ways to keep in touch in between?
Yeah, we always just sending photos, FaceTiming, calls, basically every second day at this point.
And again, that might be unique to some teams too. They might not be in contact that much. So it's interesting hearing the variation. Do you have a kids messenger account or something that you directly message the dads, or it's mainly through your mum?
Phone number, yeah.
Yeah. So you directly contact the dad?
Yeah, and I also talk through mum as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm winging that question. Eleanor, do you directly contact the dads sometimes then?
Yeah, I have both of their phone numbers and both of them on Facebook.
Yep. Clarity, do you have much one-on-one contact with the parents?
Yeah, with FaceTime, we have a group chat called Just Right, so we send photos of Evie, update each other on life and stuff. But yeah.
So you would share like updates about your life too in those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
So, yeah, they're really interested in about our lives as well. So
that's great. And I think it's really valuable for people to hear what it looks like after. They can imagine the whole journey, but then what does contact look like? How often? In what way is it done? So this is great to hear. So then we're sort of summarising the large parts of the journey here. Is there anything that you wish had been done differently? Cooper, in that journey, if time could go again, maybe him not being born so early?
Honestly, yeah, according to mum, that would have been nice. Having him born not so early, but I personally, in my opinion, I don't feel like anything could have been done differently. I think it was beautiful either way.
Cool. Was there anything really tough then? I suppose you did already mention that separation unexpectedly. Was there anything else that was particularly challenging?
Not really. It was just mainly that. Just the separation, all of a sudden.
Yeah. Thank you. What about you, Eleanor? Is there anything you wish could be done differently or that was tricky?
Well, not that I can recall. I know that Mum's talked about a few things that she wished were done differently, but again, it's just because like surrogacy's been so normal in my life for so long that I don't know. No idea.
That's okay. That's good if there's nothing that feels like needs changing. Clarity for you?
honestly, I don't think so. It's like if something had gone differently, Evie wouldn't be who she is, and for all we know, our bond between the IPs couldn't have been as strong. So I think that everything worked out how it was supposed to.
Cool. And because your mum's going into the planning of, well, they're quite far along the planning of the next journey. Yeah. Is there anything that's happening different that you like or don't like, or that, no, that's probably a tricky question to answer. Is it a similar thing, getting to know Matt and Vicky and building up that connection again?
I think it was pretty similar, but I feel like the process is a lot different. Not a lot different, but we were with Sarah and Ben before Mum got pregnant for quite a long time, and with Matt and Vicky, I feel like it's moved a lot quicker, but we've still gotten to know them very well, and I feel like they've gotten to know us really, really well as well. Yeah.
So I can clearly hear that there's an ongoing bond with the baby and the parents. It's made me realise I haven't got on co-hosts where it hasn't gone well and you're not in contact with them. So perhaps that could be a webinar for another date with Find 3 Children of Surrogates, where there's a lot more bumps along the way.
Well, the first family we did, we don't have any contact with anymore.
Yeah, okay. Basically none.
Yeah, I haven't seen the little boy in I don't even know how long.
Yeah. I wonder if he knows his story then or not.
He does. We saw him when he was younger, but
Yep.
yeah, I can't remember the last time we saw him.
Is that something that you would like to see him? Or
yeah.
Is that sort of feels like it's out of your control?
A little bit. Because I can't remember if they live in Sydney or Brisbane, but whenever we go to Brisbane, as far as I'm aware, we try to get in contact with them to organise to meet up, and they just don't.
Do they reply to the messages and just find a time, or they're not replying much?
Mum's just said that they're just busy.
Yeah, it's probably digging a bit too deep there. I hear that the second journey, though, you saw quite recently, and the little boy Jake is 10?
Yeah.
Wow, 10. Yeah. And so, again, continuing that sort of cousin feel there. I guess that brings me to a question then, in terms of if the contact did stop, how would you feel? Eleanor, you've touched on then that the first journey has stopped. And how would you feel if the other two stopped?
Quite upset. I think I'd really miss Jake and Callum, even though Callum, his brother, my mum didn't carry and didn't do the donor for, so we have no relation to him like that, but he's still like family.
Yeah.
I'd be pretty upset if they cut contact.
Yep, fair enough.
I'd be upset if the Sams did too, but I think it'd be hard because we see them in daily life.
Because you're more local to each other. Yeah, so if you cut contact and you live locally, that would be hard because you might bump into them unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Yep. Clarity for you, if contact stopped, how would you feel losing surrogate baby Evie and the parents?
I feel like it'd be devastating. I feel like it'd be like I lost a part of myself, because like these are the people that I've grown up around. They're not just, strangers anymore. Like, they're a part of my family, and like I looked up to them, and I feel like, yeah, if I lost contact with them, I'd be absolutely devastated.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Cooper, how would you feel?
I feel like I'd be losing a part of it, just a part of my life that, there's no really getting back. If we cut contacts, then just be devastating, really.
Yes.
Especially because we've been through this whole time, all these stressful moments and stuff. It just be heartbreaking, really.
And really interesting for people listening to hear this, because all of these people were strangers in your lives beforehand, and they've come into your lives and you've built this connection, not just your mum having built this connection with the people she cared for, but it's this ripple effect. You guys have come along for the ride too and built this connection, and they're lifelong connections, we hope.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask my last tricky question, whether or not I should ask this question or not. We had a bit of a group chat going with the kids and the mums this week leading up to this. And my question was, do you think surrogates should be paid to do this or not? So I'm going to go Eleanor first.
I don't think I've got both of my parents watching now. I think that there should be, what's the word? Compensated. There should be compensation for the damage that is done to women's bodies by giving birth. Well, but like just compensation.
Yeah, because hard
and
work, isn't it, giving birth?
yeah, and how hard it can be on the family, and just covering things like the most recent couple, they got us somebody to clean our house for a bit during the pregnancy, and just stuff like that I think is fair, but I don't think that they should be paying for a child. Like, you're not buying the baby off of us, you're not renting my mum.
Yes. It's a really tricky debate that I know is ongoing in Australia and different countries in terms of, we understand covering the costs, like paying the cost of a cleaner and that sort of stuff. But is there some sort of compensation for the wear and tear on your body after it's, but not having it seem like you're paying for a child?
Yeah, because my mum's first surrogacy, the birth did damage to her pelvic floor.
Yeah.
And I'm telling them. And the second one did some pretty harsh tearing. So I think that there should be compensation for stuff like that, because it is somewhat damaging.
It is, absolutely. Yep. It's the realities of surrogacy here. Clarity, what about you?
I don't think surrogates should be paid. I mean, if surrogates would be paid, then people would do it for the wrong reasons. Like, I agree with like paying for appointments for the surrogate, and like I think with Sarah and Ben, they gave us a credit card to like buy things that we needed, and I agree with that. But I don't think overall you shouldn't be paying for a baby. It's something that you should do out of the kindness of your heart.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Cooper?
I believe that I completely understand the paying for certain things throughout the surrogacy, but I personally believe that I feel like an overall payment for a child as well, especially, is not, I just don't agree with it personally. It takes away the altruism of the entire thing. And like you won't ever, if you're doing it for the money, as Clarity said, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And you'll never form those bonds with the people that you're having the surrogacy for.
Mm.
So it's like, I understand that people are like, oh yeah, I feel like surrogates should be paid. But at the same time, I also feel like, okay, it's kind of like human trafficking.
Yeah, and it's the debate that comes up in terms of at what line are we paying for a life here, and you
Yeah.
can't. That's human trafficking. I'm just going to add my couple of bits in, see if I spark any of you on this. The things to think about are that, you know, there are countries where that's how surrogacy works, and that it's a commercial surrogacy arrangement. And I don't think that the women are any less kind and giving, because there's still a lot of routines and checks and stuff they have to go through, because I've met some international surrogates. They just happen to live in a country where you do get paid, that they don't necessarily want to, but it's also a way to support themselves and to give back. But then another thing is, I've run one of these panels at one of the live conferences in person where I interviewed the children of surrogates. Sorry, I'll correct that. I've interviewed the children born from surrogacy. Now, granted, they were sort of about 11 and 12, and they were born through overseas surrogacy, because the ones that have been born through Australian surrogacy haven't come to your age yet. And they all totally agreed that a surrogate should be paid. They went, oh yes, it's hard work having a baby. You know, my parents wouldn't be parents if somebody didn't help out. That's hard work. You should get paid for that. So that was interesting to hear that the kids born from surrogacy thought you should. Do any of you want to add anything to a couple of things I've said there?
I
I
do.
feel like I get it, like, but it's at the same time, it's like not every parent can afford to pay for a baby. And for some people, having a baby is the one thing that they truly want. And a lot of them can't afford to just be paying for a baby. But I get why people think that surrogates should be paid at the same time.
Eleanor?
I do agree with, like, because I know in some countries surrogates get paid to like $50,000, and that's already the amount that it is to get the egg donating and all of that. So I think it's ridiculous to have to pay double the money to have a surrogate. But I do think that women should be paid an amount for carrying a child, because as I said, that's a lot. And there could be things that go wrong in the pregnancy, and there's just so many risk factors.
Yeah. There is sometimes some discussion in Australia about a small compensation, maybe $5,000 or $10,000.
Yeah.
And that you might then take your family on a holiday because your families had to put up with mum during pregnancy being tired and grumpy, and this could be a way to repay her family. So that's perhaps one path Australia might go down. We're not sure. Cooper, did you want to add anything extra there?
I personally just feel like why should gay men or lesbian women, why should they be penalized for being socially infertile, for wanting a family? I feel like just you're already spending so much money on like everything else for the surrogacy. Just like everything about it, like all the scans, everything, all the doctor's appointments, everything else, all the legal stuff, yeah. I just personally feel like they're already spending so much money on this, that I just personally feel like they shouldn't have to. I just feel like they shouldn't be penalized or just have to spend any more money than they already are because they want a family.
Yep. Yeah,
That just
it's certainly unfair. Like for the dads that I carried for, it cost them $60,000 to have their baby. 30,000 was IVF, and then all of the other bits along the way. Whereas, most male-female couples doesn't cost you anything to have a baby, unless you've got medical challenges, of course. So yes, it's certainly an injustice, either due to being what's called socially infertile with the by who you choose your partner to be, or not. It's not a choice, it's how we do it. Or in terms of you have medical challenges. So there's often, these extra.
Sorry, my sound cut out.
That's fine, you're back, you're all good. So it's an interesting debate, and it's really interesting to hear your thoughts. And somebody in the chat has said, such mature and articulate young people. Thank you so much for this important conversation. And another, that was Rachel, and Sarah Jane, SJ in chat, has said, it's interesting to see the potential far-reaching impact of a surrogacy journey where the surrogate's children don't get the opportunity to see the child or the parents. These children have also invested their feelings and emotions into these journeys, and you can hear that from your replies that you've shared here, that how invested you have become in this journey. It might have been mum whose idea it was, she wanted to do this, and then her family comes along for the ride, and you do get invested in these people and this child, as I think we can hear tonight. Right. Well, I think we've done well, everyone. Time flies. Karina has said, sorry, Cooper. So proud of my beautiful grandson, Cooper. Speaking from your heart, and so very supportive of your mum and everything she has done in her egg donation and surrogacy journey. And I'm sure this comment would be relevant to all three of you. And your belief in everything that a human can do for another is so mature, beautiful, and non-judgmental. I think that sums it up for all of you here tonight. And I really hope this becomes a great resource for other people to listen to in the future, just to normalise that surrogacy can be another way in Australia to have a family. So any last bits of parting wisdom or advice that you've thought of that you wanted to mention that we haven't covered? Cooper, anything else you want to add?
Not really, no.
Eleanor?
I have a funny story about when the only like experience I had with pregnancy was surrogacy. And I was at the shops with my mom one time and saw a pregnant lady, and I asked her who she was having her baby for.
Yes. Because in your family,
Who
we
baby for?
and do you remember the expression on her face, or your mum?
I don't even remember this, but my mom tells me about it every once in a while.
Excellent. Yes. My daughter, who was 6, said something similar when her friend's mum was pregnant. She said something like, "Whose house is the baby going to live in?" Because in our house, babies don't stay with us. What about you, Clarity? Anything funny or that springs to mind?
Well, I did. So I know that one of the questions was advice for surrogates and IPs. So I think for surrogates who have kids, I think the more you explain it to them, the more they understand and the more comfortable they feel with it. Because that's what my mom did for me and my brother. She explained all of it. And then when things changed, she would explain that as well. And then for IPs, I think the biggest thing is don't forget your surrogate family and don't hurt them, because they, like you said before, the family puts, their emotions and their lives and their passion into this. And I feel like IPs just need to make sure that they're always going to be there for the family as well. And I think that's really important for surrogacy as a whole.
Absolutely. I'm seeing nods there from the others. Did you want to add to that, Cooper?
No, I just agree, honestly. Just agree with all Clarity's statements, honestly.
You too, Eleanor?
Yeah.
I think you've summed that up beautifully there, Clarity. That's great advice for future teams. Don't forget the surrogate family and her kids, because you're investing this time. They might come into surrogacy initially thinking, oh, I'm just going to have a baby, but they're going to grow an extended family, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely.
And so treat people the way you'd like to be treated, I guess.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I would have assumed if anybody had questions, they perhaps would have typed them in by now. I think they've probably just enjoyed listening, and I'm seeing in the chat the thank you for being wonderful speakers. Well done, and for sharing your experiences. And I'm sure your parents and your families are very proud of you all tonight. As a mum, I can imagine that they would definitely be. Okay, well, I might sum it up, everybody, and I'll say thank you for listening. We hope you found this useful. As I mentioned, there's a link to find upcoming webinar dates if you're looking to learn about surrogacy as an IP or as a surrogate. If you've still got lots of unanswered questions or would like them answered privately, you might consider joining SASS, which I run, Surrogacy Australia's support service, and then you can be connected with a mentor, so you have your questions answered in a one-on-one setting. I like to say, let's change the world one conversation at a time so we can educate more people about how surrogacy works. It can be lonely and overwhelming in the beginning, but there's plenty of support in the village if you go looking for it. And as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child. And in the case of surrogacy, it takes a village to make a child. So welcome to the village, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, Cooper, Eleanor, and Clarity.
Very much for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Pleasure is all ours. So thank you for your time. We'll say good night, and when I hit end, that'll end it for everybody. So good night, everyone, and thank you.
Good night.
Yeah, thank you.